Hi everybody, Steve Griffiths here, developer of the MTPredictor software program. In yesterday's MTPredictor video I was looking at a VS setup that was in the process of unfolding on the ES. Well, today I'd like to go back and basically have a look at that, see how it unfolded and what happened after that. It's always good to follow up on these things and just not leave them unattended, so to speak. But as usual, let's first go through our risk disclaimer and remind you that all examples in these videos should be considered as hypothetical. No trades are actually taken. They're only shown for illustration and training purposes only. Remind you there's a risk of loss in trading and investing, or put another way, all professional traders know and understand and more importantly accept that losses can and will and do unfold in the real world. This is just a fact of trading life. Losses will and can and do unfold. All trade decisions are your own sole responsibility. Right, let's have a look at the chart. Here's a 15-minute chart of the ES. This is on a 24-hour time frame, and the setup we were looking at yesterday was this particular VS setup here. Here it is. If I place the analysis on, if you remember, I was suggesting that VS setups, or saying that VS setups because they are volume based and because of that it's in the direction of the professional money, they normally go with you and normally go with you quite quickly. So once this particular setup had got down to here, which is on about 2-hour profit, then I was suggesting in the video yesterday that at the very least you want to bring your stop to break even. Well, as you can see, the market didn't go as anticipated. It went back up and actually would have stopped you out for a break even. So this trade didn't unfold as anticipated, and I think it's important to follow up on these trades and show you trades that don't unfold as anticipated, because that's part of trading life. Not everything goes with you, and it's important to show trades that basically don't go as anticipated. But as suggested in the video yesterday, this would probably be in a break even trade. The market went up and then made another VS setup. If I place the analysis on this one, you can see here again, this also did not get to the anticipated level. The market went down and actually gave a VS setup in the opposite direction. This wouldn't be one you'd actually trade because the MTP trend was red, but at the very least, again, you'd want to bring your stop to break even. As the market then retraced back up again, there was actually another sell setup for another short trade there, but obviously you'd already be in one. It didn't go to your break-even level, so it then started to go back down with you again. As it started to go back with you, what I'd probably suggest is it would either run with you down to the first target, or as you can see here, it didn't. And I'll show you a reason why it didn't in a minute, but just for now, what you'd probably want to do is then start using our ATR stop, which is our red dots here, to then trail it on the anticipation that it was going to get down to our first target here on like the second attempt. So that means you'd have been stopped out probably where these red dots came in about here. So this one probably would have been a small 1.4R profit, so a small profitable trade. But the reason that this probably didn't carry on down as anticipated is, well, first of all, there was a VS set up in the opposite direction here. So that would give you initial warning that the market was probably not carrying on down. But also, if I have a look at the rally up into this high here, if I right mouse click on this high and do Elliott wave intermediate, can you see how this was a 5-wave sequence? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's probably another reason why that sell setup didn't really unfold as anticipated, because it wasn't the end of an impulsive swing. But can you see now how this looked to be a good trade setup at the time, because it was at the typical wave 5 WPT. So what do we know about 5-wave sequences? Well, the initial target of a completed 5-wave sequence is the DP from the prior wave 4. So if we go down, there's the prior wave 4. If I right mouse click, place the DP on, this would be the initial target for the move off a completed 5-wave sequence. And as you can see, that's exactly what it did. It went down into here, and this was the level that basically was not breached, and it didn't carry on down below it. So that's another another reason why on the previous short trade of this VS setup, as it started to go down here, particularly on the second attempt coming down in this area here, you'd want to start to trail your stop, because it had to get beyond this to then go to the next level. If it had gone beyond this level, then the next target would have been the DP from the start of the sequence, which was back here, which was obviously our first initial targets. That's where we're aiming for. So that was just a quick follow-up on the setups that we had that I was showing you on in the previous video. In other words, this particular setup here that did not unfold as anticipated and would have just been a break-even trade. This second one that again did not unfold as anticipated, but probably would have been a small 1.4R profit. So a good example of a couple of trades that did not unfold out as anticipated. It's important to show these because not all trades do unfold as we'd like. What was interesting on some of the other markets, there wasn't much going on the YM. If we look at again the 24-hour session of the YM, there wasn't much happening here. But on the NQ, if I go to the NQ, what was really interesting at this same time was it actually made its highs at this previous DP as well. So it made its highs up at this level here as well, just like the ES. It also came down to a VS setup here, just like the ES. But this was actually on a black MTP trend, so it would have been one that you could have actually considered. The market went up, chopped sideways, hasn't really done much, so you may well have brought your stop to break even on this once you got to the 100% initial risk level. But after that, can you see what the market's done since? It's gone down and made a TS4 Holy Grail buy setup on a blue MTP trend. So just as the ES was coming into the area where we're looking at it being stopped out, the short trade on the ES, the NQ actually made a long setup in here. And if I place the analysis on, this would be the current long trade that's in the process of unfolding on the NQ. So will the market get up to this level? Well, again, as I said in the ES, we have no idea. We don't know whether it's going to. Will it reach its initial DP here? Again, we have no idea. We don't know whether it's going to. But because the trade is currently at 3, well, it was actually up at over 4R profit there, but it's currently sitting on about 3R profit. At the very least, again, you'd want to have this to break even. So again, it's a trade, a free trade, because the stock would be at the very least break even. So we can actually follow this particular trade now and see whether the market is now going to rally and see whether it gets up to this particular profit target here. If it does, that would be an absolutely fantastic trade. You can see the profit there would be almost 5R profit. But again, it doesn't matter whether it does or whether it doesn't. That's not what trading's about. Trading's about having trades where the potential profit is large, and if the market does not unfold as anticipated, excuse me, the losses are kept small. In this case, we'd be at break even, so the loss would be 0. But if it wasn't, the loss would be at -1R. And as we saw on the ES over the last couple of examples, not all trades unfold as anticipated, and in fact, trades don't, and that's where you want to be a bit careful on that. The only thing that would be slightly wary about the NQ is on the ES. If we go back to the last pivot, which was here, if we right mouse click, can you see how the ES made its high at this particular DP level here? So that would be at the level where the NQ long trade was about 5R profit. Remember I showed you that a couple of minutes ago? So that would be slightly, so I'd be slightly wary about the NQ trade because the ES has reached a DP resistance zone here. So it'd be interesting to see how these unfold, but as always, we never know what the market's going to do. We just try to make trades where the potential profit is large and the initial risk are kept small. And I hope you've enjoyed today's video, particularly showing trade setups that have not unfolded as anticipated, because it's important to show these because not all trades are great winning trades. The market has its own ideas sometimes, and it's important to show trades where the market basically has gone its own way and not unfolded as anticipated.